It was a Friday night, the kind where the air feels electric with possibility. The bar was packed, bodies pressed together in that familiar dance of weekend revelry. Neon lights cast their glow across faces both familiar and strange, and the bass from the speakers seemed to synchronize with my heartbeat. I'm Jamie, by the way. 28, graphic designer by day, and that night, just another guy looking for a bit of connection in a sea of strangers. You know those moments when you're surrounded by people but somehow feel completely alone? That was me, nursing my second gin and tonic, watching the world spin around me in a blur of laughter and clinking glasses. I've always found something magical about nightlife, the way it transforms ordinary people into adventurers, the way strangers become confidants under the spell of dim lighting and good music. There's this beautiful unpredictability to it all, like anything could happen at any moment. And sometimes, it does. Sometimes, the universe conspires to put exactly the right person in your path at exactly the right time. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As I leaned against the bar, I noticed him immediately. It's funny how that works, isn't it? In a crowded room, somehow your eyes find the one person who's going to matter. He stood out not just because he was handsome, though he certainly was, with dark curly hair and the kind of jawline that belongs on magazine covers, but because of the look of utter distress on his face. He was patting his pockets frantically, turning in circles, his eyes scanning the floor with increasing panic. I don't know what made me approach him. I'm not usually the type to insert myself into strangers' problems. But there was something about his vulnerability that pulled me in, made me want to help. "Hey," I said, raising my voice above the music. "Everything okay?" He looked up, and I swear time did that movie thing where it slows down for just a second. His eyes were deep brown, crinkled at the corners with worry. "I lost my phone," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I just had it, and now it's gone. I've looked everywhere. Did you try calling it?" I asked, immediately feeling stupid for suggesting the obvious. He gave me a small, tired smile. "I would, but—" He gestured to his empty hands. "Right?" I laughed. "Sorry. Here, use mine." I pulled my phone from my pocket and handed it over without hesitation. It wasn't until his fingers brushed mine that I realized I'd just handed my unlocked phone to a complete stranger in a bar. But something told me I could trust him. "Thanks," he said, relief washing over his features. "I'm Alex, by the way." "Jamie," I replied, watching as he dialed his number from memory. There was something intimate about watching someone use your phone, like letting them borrow a piece of yourself. We stood there in silence for a moment, both listening for the distant ring of his lost phone. Nothing. He tried again, his fingers dancing across my screen. Still nothing. "It might be on silent," he sighed, handing my phone back. "Or someone might have already picked it up." "Let me buy you a drink while you figure out what to do next," I offered, surprising myself with my boldness. "What's your poison?" "Whiskey, neat," he said, and then smiled, a real smile this time, one that reached his eyes and transformed his whole face. "Thanks, Jamie. You're a lifesaver." As the bartender prepared his drink, we fell into conversation as easily as old friends. Alex was a music producer, in town for a series of meetings with local artists. He had this way of talking about sound that made me see it as something tangible, something you could hold in your hands and shape. His passion was infectious, and I found myself leaning in closer, not wanting to miss a word over the noise of the bar. "What about you?" he asked, taking a sip of his whiskey. "What does Jamie do when he's not rescuing distressed strangers in bars?" I told him about my work as a graphic designer, about the freelance projects I was passionate about versus the corporate gigs that paid the bills. I found myself sharing more than I normally would with someone I just met. My dreams of starting my own design studio someday, my frustrations with clients who didn't understand the creative process. "I get that," Alex nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "It's like they want you to translate what's in their head without giving you any of the vocabulary." "Exactly," I exclaimed, feeling that rare thrill of being truly understood. "It's like they—" Just then, Alex's phone started ringing. Not from the floor or under a nearby table, but from across the bar. A guy was holding it up, looking around questioningly. "That's my friend Marcos," Alex explained, already standing. "He must have found it." I felt a pang of disappointment as he prepared to leave. Our conversation had just started to flow, and now it was ending. But what could I say? Don't go get your phone? That would be ridiculous. "I should grab that," Alex said, hesitating. "But hey, can I have your phone one more time? I want to make sure I can thank my rescuer properly." I handed it over, watching as he typed something in. When he gave it back, I saw he'd added himself to my contacts. But instead of Alex, or even Alex from the bar, he'd saved himself as Future. My heart did a little flip. Future, huh? I asked, trying to sound casual while my pulse raced. He grinned, that same transformative smile. I'm optimistic, he said with a wink. Then, with a squeeze of my shoulder that sent electricity down my spine, he was gone, weaving through the crowd toward his friend. I stood there for a moment, staring at my phone, at that single word, Future. What did it mean exactly? Was it just a clever line, the kind you use in bars and forget by morning? Or was it a promise, a prediction? I couldn't help but smile at the audacity of it, the confidence. I liked that about him already, the way he saw possibility where others might see just another fleeting encounter. The days that followed were an exercise in restraint. I checked my phone embarrassingly often, jumping every time it buzzed with a notification. My roommate, Liam, noticed immediately. You're like a teenager waiting for a text from your crush, he teased over breakfast on Sunday morning. Who is this guy anyway? I tried to downplay it. Just someone I met at the bar on Friday. He lost his phone. I helped him find it. No big deal. And yet you've checked your phone 17 times since we sat down, Liam observed, raising an eyebrow. Just text him already. But I couldn't. There was something about making the first move that terrified me. What if he'd just been being nice? What if Future was just a joke I was taking too seriously? What if he'd already forgotten about me? By Wednesday, I'd almost convinced myself it had been nothing. Just a nice moment with a stranger, the kind you look back on fondly but that leads nowhere. I was at work, deep in a design project, when my phone buzzed with a text from Future. Sorry for the radio silence. Had a crazy few days. Still think about your smile, though. Dinner tomorrow. I stared at the message for so long that my screen went dark. Then I read it again. And again. I must have typed and deleted my response a dozen times before settling on a simple, I'd like that. Where and when? We agreed to meet at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I arrived 15 minutes early, a bundle of nerves disguised as a human. What if the chemistry we'd had at the bar didn't translate to the real world? What if we had nothing to talk about over pasta and wine? But the moment Alex walked in, all those fears evaporated. He looked even better than I remembered, dressed in a blue button-down that made his eyes pop. He spotted me and his face lit up with recognition and something more, pleasure, genuine pleasure at seeing me again. Jamie, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare. You're not late, I assured him, suddenly conscious of my own eagerness. I was early. He smiled, that same smile that had haunted my thoughts for days. Eager to see me? I could have played it cool, but something about Alex made me want to be honest. Yes, I admitted. I was. Dinner flew by in a whirlwind of conversation. We talked about everything. Our childhoods, his in Chicago, mine in Seattle, our favorite films. He loved old noir movies. I was a sucker for sci-fi. Our dreams, his to produce an album that would change someone's life. Mine to create designs that would stand the test of time. The waiter had to remind us twice that the restaurant was closing. As we stood outside in the cool night air, that awkward moment arrived. The what now? That follows a good date. Alex solved it by taking my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine naturally, as if they'd done it 100 times before. My place is just a few blocks away, he said, his voice soft, but sure. We could have a nightcap. Or I could walk you home. Or we could say goodnight here. Whatever you want, Jamie. I liked that he gave me options, that he didn't assume. A nightcap sounds nice, I decided, squeezing his hand. His apartment was small but stylish, with music equipment taking up most of the living room space. Records lined one wall, and a keyboard sat in the corner. It felt lived in, personal in a way that told me more about Alex than hours of conversation could. We sat on his couch, glasses of whiskey in hand, and continued where we'd left off at the restaurant. But now, without the table between us, there was a new tension, a pleasant electricity that charged the air. When he kissed me, it felt inevitable, like the natural conclusion to a sentence we'd been writing together since that night at the bar. His lips were soft, his hand gentle as it cupped my face. I melted into him, all my earlier nerves transforming into a different kind of anticipation. That night was the beginning of something I hadn't dared hope for. In the weeks that followed, Alex and I fell into a rhythm that felt both exciting and comfortable. We explored the city's nightlife together, discovering hidden jazz clubs and rooftop bars with views that took your breath away. He introduced me to his world of music, and I showed him mine of design. We fit together seamlessly, our differences complementing rather than conflicting. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. About a month in, we hit our first real bump. Alex had been distant for a few days, canceling plans last minute and responding to texts with one-word answers. When I finally confronted him about it, sitting on his couch where we'd shared so many good moments, his defenses went up immediately. "I'm just busy, Jamie. Not everything is about you," he snapped, then immediately looked regretful. "I'm sorry. That came out wrong." I felt a cold knot of fear in my stomach. This was it, I thought. The beginning of the end. The part where he realizes I'm not what he wants after all. "If you're having second thoughts about us, just say so," I said, hating the vulnerability in my voice. "I'm a big boy. I can take it." Alex looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the struggle in his eyes. "It's not that," he said finally. "It's, my ex is back in town. He wants to meet up, to talk. And I don't know how to feel about it." The knot in my stomach tightened. "Do you still have feelings for him?" "No," Alex said quickly, then sighed. "Maybe. I don't know. We were together for 3 years, Jamie. He was my first real love. And things ended badly, without closure. Part of me wants to see him, to finally put it all to rest. But another part is afraid of what seeing him might stir up." I appreciated his honesty, even as it scared me. "And where do I fit into all this?" I asked quietly. Alex reached for my hand, his eyes earnest. "You're not a rebound, if that's what you're asking. What I feel for you is real. But I'm still figuring out how to navigate all this. I've never been good at balancing my past with my present." I nodded, trying to understand. "So what do you want to do?" "I want to meet him," Alex admitted. "One time, for coffee. To say the things I never got to say. And then I want to come back to you, to us, and move forward. If you'll let me." It was a risk, letting him go to that meeting. But relationships are built on trust, and I wanted to trust Alex. "Okay," I said. "But promise me one thing. Be honest with me afterward. About everything." He promised, and I held on to that promise through the longest afternoon of my life, waiting for him to return from his coffee with the ex. When he finally showed up at my apartment that evening, his expression was unreadable. "How did it go?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alex sat beside me on the couch, taking my hands in his. "It was clarifying," he said. "Seeing him again, I realized something important. What I felt for him was real, but it's in the past. It's like a song I used to love but don't need to hear anymore." He looked into my eyes. "You're my present, Jamie. And hopefully my future too." The relief I felt was overwhelming. Not just because he'd chosen me, but because we'd navigated our first real challenge together and come out stronger. It was a turning point for us, a moment when what we had transformed from something new and exciting into something deeper, more resilient. Over the following months, our relationship continued to grow. We met each other's friends, navigated the holidays together, and even started talking tentatively about the future, about possibilities and plans. Alex's career took off when one of his productions caught the attention of a major label, and I landed a design contract that finally gave me the financial freedom to start planning my own studio. 6 months after that night at the bar, Alex took me back there for a surprise. The same neon lights, the same pulsing music, but everything else had changed. We were no longer strangers, but partners, confidants, lovers. "Why are we here?" I asked, curious about his secretive smile. Alex led me to the exact spot where we'd first met. "I wanted to bring you back to where it all began," he said, pulling something from his pocket. It was a small box, and my heart began to race. "Don't worry, it's not a ring," he laughed, seeing my expression. "Not yet, anyway." He opened the box to reveal a key. "It's to my apartment. I want you to move in with me, Jamie. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a life with you." I took the key, emotion welling up in my throat. "Are you sure?" "It's a big step." "I've never been more sure of anything," he said, his eyes shining with certainty. "Remember how I saved my number in your phone that night?" "As future." I nodded, unable to speak. "I knew even then," Alex continued. "Something about you felt like home, like destiny. And everything since has only confirmed what I felt in that first moment." I pulled him close, kissing him deeply, right there in the middle of the bar where our story began. "Yes," I whispered against his lips. "Yes to moving in. Yes to building a life together. Yes to everything." As we celebrated that night, dancing and laughing and making plans, I couldn't help but marvel at the serendipity of it all. A lost phone, a borrowed call, a contact saved as future, such small moments that led to something so profound. It made me believe in fate, in the magic of chance encounters and the courage it takes to follow where they lead. 1 year to the day after we met, we returned once more to that bar, this time with all our friends. And as midnight approached, Alex got down on one knee in the exact spot where he'd first asked to borrow my phone. This time, the box did contain a ring. "Jamie," he said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes, "you handed me your phone that night, but what you really gave me was a chance at happiness, at love, at a future brighter than anything I could have imagined. Will you marry me?" Through my own tears, I managed to say yes. And as our friends cheered and strangers raised their glasses in celebration, I thought about how life's most meaningful journeys often begin with the smallest steps. A lost phone, a kind gesture, a contact saved as future. Sometimes, the universe knows exactly what it's doing. Sometimes, it puts the right person in your path at exactly the right moment. And if you're brave enough to reach out, to make that connection, you might just find that the future is even more beautiful than you dared to dream. As Alex and I walk through life together now, planning our wedding and building our careers side by side, I often think back to that night, to the moment when a stranger in distress became the love of my life, to the leap of faith it took to let him in. And I'm grateful, so grateful, that I was there that night, that I offered my phone, that he saw in me what I couldn't yet see in myself, a future worth saving. Total_char_count, 18,642.